are definitely live. They're definitely live, and I'm starting it off this week, so I can't just take a sip of tea straight away, can I? But hey, welcome, one and all. Good day, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be. Welcome to ADSN 153. And it's just two of us this week. As you can see, Sunwarper is otherwise indisposed. He's got a lot of stuff going on. Being a new dad and being a successful YouTuber takes his time away from things, which is fair enough. So we are here. And, you know, as Mike put it in the chat, we're talking all about Ableton this week. So, you know, I'm sure he's got his opinions and he's got his ideas what's going on. And he can air them in the chat or he can air them in the Discord. But I'm sure he's okay. I'm sure he's okay. He will be missed. Brother, hope you're doing well. I haven't spoken to you this week. Miss your face. Catch up with you next week. But we are here and we're going to be talking all about the Ableton Live 12.2 update, which looks quite fun. It's going to be a lot of nice ideas. So joining me this week is Eonlake. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, thanks, man. I'm good. And Sunwarper's going to be so gutted to have missed this one. I don't know. It's almost like we snuck it in there when he's not around, but you know, we're not privy to Ableton's release schedule, and such an accusation would be horrifically untrue. We would never do anything like that. But yes.
And if it wasn't for our resident Ableton sponsor, Mike, we could be talking about this next week because the reason that we're talking about this today was because about 2 p.m. this afternoon, Mike hit me up with the links and he just started talking about it in my Instagram inbox. I was like, cool. I'm struggling to find a show for this week. This will do.
Yeah, well, it's good because I've been reading a lot of news this week about various things, and to summarize, it's been a bit dark, really. It's not made me feel particularly bouncy or happy. So to be honest, I'm glad not to be talking about it this week. Maybe push that out until a little bit later. There's a lot of things going on out there that we probably need to keep our eyes on for the rest of the year. But but for now, we can stay on slightly more positive subjects, I think, and have a nicer time of it this week.
I think that's very much the bill and the cause of the way of things. Yes, I share your despair with what's been going on in the last couple of days, last couple of weeks. The Discord's been alive with it. Smiling Areas posted a few things in the Discord over the weekend. You yourself were in our ADSN working chat. Yeah, but we're not going to talk about that today. So we are in a bit of a wibbly wobbly period. So some people in the States may be getting this a bit later or a bit earlier. I can't really tell. No, you fall back and you spring forward, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so they're an hour ahead and we're still on the same time.
Exactly. So that's which is lovely for now, and we'll see where we're at next week, guys and gals, because we want to aim to get Sunwarper back in here. Survey channel is here in the chat. Hello, Survey. Misses probably an hour later. Maybe that's a better time for him. You never know. But it's nice to see us. We also have Mike, as the aforementioned, who is just giving us the updates as they come through. He's giving us updates of updates. 12.2 update. It was released today. That's what we're discussing today. And also our other fundamental person, Smiling Errors. You're hinting at that super shady stuff from Spotify and the distributors. We'll probably talk about that.
Yes. What I would particularly say, though, and my take on all of that is everybody's pointing at Spotify, but it's all the distributors that are enabling it. So, yeah, we'll come to that, though. Just not tonight. We have to let me calm down first. We do try and not swear on this.
We do.
And we usually manage it.
For the majority, we do. We're pretty good at that.
Too much of the S word, and by that I mean Spotify brings all sorts of other words out frequently.
Exactly. There's a lot going on, and we try and not rant on and lament on it every week. We could. There's so much stuff on it, but we try and maintain a positive space for now. For now.
Yeah, this is ADSN and nothing to do with Spotify. I'm sick of giving them time, to be honest.
Exactly.
Let's talk about something else.
Yeah. Once, I don't know if you ever saw Tomorrow Never Dies. There's no news like bad news. Ilya Carver, he made a living on horrible headlines, and Spotify will still be making money off of our talking about him even now. So we will move swiftly on. And as Mike says, oh, that's you exactly. But Mike says, thinking only happy thoughts this week. That's where we're at. We're going to do that. And as Survey Channel says, our resident American in the chat right now, it now airs at 3 p.m. Eastern. And we are in what we call wibbly wobbly time. For those of you who've been with us for a couple of years, yes, this happens twice a year. The clocks go back at different times depending on where you are in the world. So we in Europe, obviously Eonlake is in the UK and I'm here in Prague. And our clocks go forward at the end of the month, right? 31st-ish? Yeah.
31st, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas in the Americas, or at least in North America, they've already gone back. So for now, we're going to be a bit all over the place. Sometimes we stay at UTC. Sometimes we shift it. Depends on our schedules. Maybe an early shout out to our Discord. If you want to know where we're at, we always post it in the Discord first and foremost when we kind of work it out. So the link is in the description. It is up to date. I did update it when I was putting everything up this afternoon. So if that's something you're interested in, getting where we are and when we're going to be, especially in this wibbly wobbly period, go to our Discord.
Yeah, and having a chat.
Exactly. The Discord is alive with the sound of music, as they say. So yeah. So as I've had a sip of tea, before we get into it final and proper, Eonlake, what's been the highlight of your week?
I'll just fire questions like that at me with no warning. Wow, dearie me. Highlight of my week was, I think, actually, it was beginning to build the next live set.
Okay.
And figuring out what's going to get played and what's not, and realizing that I might actually have to finish a new track if I want to actually include it. So that sort of excitement when you think, how many weeks is it? Have I got long enough to finish a song? You would think any number of weeks would be enough weeks, but with me, you never can tell. You know, they do their own thing. But yeah, I think that.
Have you got a deadline on this track, or because obviously you got a live set and we're going to talk about that in the round robin later. You got a live show coming up in April. Is that your deadline? Is that enough of a deadline, or is it just I'm going to finish it when I finish it?
I'm going to finish it as quickly as I possibly can to give me a chance to rehearse.
Okay, rehearsal, that is a big thing. If you're not basing it.
Yeah, I get terrible nerves. So I need to be well rehearsed. I need to know exactly what I'm doing.
I get that. That makes sense. I mean, without teasing the round robin too much this evening, before we get into it, the notion of are you one of those where you prefer a slicker kind of point by point rehearsed kind of live set as opposed to the improvisational kind of situation?
For the moment, yes. I think I'm planning on sort of working on some ambient sets for some slightly different styles of gig, and maybe trialing things like that at Emon, where it is a lot more improvised. Got all sorts of ideas in that category, but as far as my general live gigs, I think of as you know, about the catalogue and, you know, what's on my albums and stuff. I tend to bin off the deep state stuff because I want people awake. But apart from that, yes, I tend to keep things a bit more upbeat. I'd kind of like it to be seamless, really, just because it's what I enjoy. I like live shows that are a real journey and just, you know, don't let you come back to reality at any point. Just keep you going. So
I get that.
That's kind of my aesthetic. I might actually stop at one point. I don't know. I'd like to think in the future when I'm playing, you know, longer sets that there'd be room in the middle for just playing something, you know, completely off the grid, nothing, you know, time synced or anything. But we'll see, you know, that's all, you know, getting a bit ahead of yourself, really. For the moment, I need to replicate some version of what I've got recorded so far.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, The Czechs have a saying, "Krok to krokem," step by step, and it's like, but you can't run before you can walk. Essentially, you've got to kind of build up to. You have this idea in your head of where you want to go, but then in order to get there, you need to take certain steps in order to get to it. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's all about the music. You start with that first, and you work out from there. So yeah, that's what I intend to do time-wise as well. Get it ready as quickly as possible. So if I want to change what I'm doing, or change the structure a little bit, or the songs, or what goes between them, this time,
Yeah, that makes sense. You've got to feel, at the end of the day, you've got to feel confident. You've got to feel secure in what you got to do, right? Otherwise, that's not going to emulate that energy across.
Yeah, exactly that.
That completely and utterly. Well, okay. We'll just say hello to Coraline here, who is waving in the chat. If I click on that, yeah, that shows it. Hi, nice to see you. Wonderful to have you again. Maybe the time change is always a good thing here. And to paraphrase our sponsor for this week, to paraphrase the old saying about public speaking, if you want 1 hour of waffly drone, I am ready now. I feel like Mike wants us to start talking about Ableton.
Yeah, I was just thinking he wants to join in. I mean, come at us, bro.
You can.
To join and talk later.
Exactly. Mike, SC, server channel, you guys are patrons, and I have put the link to this show into this chat on our Patreon. So if you want to come down and have a chat in real time about what we're doing and Ableton, etc., the place is there. I suppose it's an early kind of nod to the community, but yes, I'll come back to that later. Should we get into Ableton before we waffle on too much longer?
What are they up to? What do we get?
What do we get? That's a very good question.
We're all hardened Ableton users now. Sunwarper's not here.
We are. I believe
it's a lot more fun saying that when he's here.
I am sure he'll watch on the repeat and he'll be fuming.
Yeah. He'll be getting tips. You know, he loves it really. He just likes to pretend.
Yeah, it's just gonna be different, right? It's just gonna be different. For anyone watching, and if you're new to the channel, both Ableton and Eonlake and I are users of Ableton, and so is Mike. And I know that once upon a time, Survey Channel was messing around with it, and it's a great space in which to be. And they have just released their 12.2 update, which has been in beta or beta, depending on where you are in the world. And I imagine Mike has already been smashing that and has his own opinion. So, Mike, if you want to let us know how you feel about everything, please, as we're rambling on, please let us know what you think. And you as well, if you're watching back, please let us know where you're going. But yeah, let's get into it. Just for purposes of just setting the stage, you are currently using Suite 11, is that right, Eonlake?
Yes. Call me old-fashioned. One of my machines can only run 11. My laptop will easily do the new one, but so far it's been handy being able to just chop things between the two quite easily without having to stem export or anything. That's probably going to change, but yeah, 11 so far.
11 so far. I'm the same. I've got 11. Didn't want to make the jump to 12 just because of the price when it came out. I'm not much of a MIDI user. I use mainly analog. Do you mind? I'm trying to host a show here. Thank you, Steve. But as Mike says, if I just bring this up, there's a few really handy workflow updates which have come through. So we'll go through them first and foremost and then get into it. So yeah, one of the biggest things that they've got is this notion of bounce to new track, which I find really interesting. So users can now quickly bounce clips or time selections on MIDI and audio tracks, including all processing to a new audio track. This can also convert an entire track to audio, and this allows for easy micro edits and transition effects. Now that seems like a pretty decent idea.
Yeah, although I'm going to say it, and Ableton, I do love you, but where the hell has that been? I mean, I remember when high definition TV came out in the UK and ultra high definition, and each time I thought, yeah, that's good. where the hell has it been all these years? You know, what took so long? And I think this is feeling like another one of those things to me. I mean, I've been freezing tracks and duplicating them and stuff like that. It's not a huge deal or anything. It's just a little more convenient. And from what I read in the notes, it's something that's been added to push now. So it's, you know, I am happy about that because I like doing as much as I can on push and not having to use the screen. So they are enabling me in that, and thank you. It just feels a little bit late, I think, compared to other platforms. And I know if the big man were here, he would be telling us what version of Logic, you know, they were doing that in. But you know, let's not be too negative. You know, it's all good. It's welcome. Thanks for that. Just you know, speed it up a bit in future, maybe.
I mean, yeah, completely. I completely agree with you on that one. It feels like something that should have been here a long time ago. Similar to, I suppose you could say, stem separation, stem splitting. If FL and Logic stem split,
I'd like to think that they're sort of doing an Apple thing where they're not interested in being first to the party, but when they do it, it'll be good. Yeah. At least, you know, that's how some people think Apple will want to do things. I'd be happy if they are just trying to get it right and polish it, and we'll release it when it is.
Yeah.
But again, it does feel a little late, perhaps.
It does, but nonetheless, it's here now. So if that's something that you're interested in, and you, like Eonlake, struggle with the workflow of freezing and duplicating, then maybe it's time to get into that. It is really nice. If you are using 12, that does seem like a really nice way of doing it. Also, their auto filter update. It's a long-standing effect. It's been, well, obviously, we've always had the auto filter, but it's been redesigned and enhanced functionality. Users can now experiment with creative filter types like valve, DJ, and comb, refine their sound with an improved modulation section, and get better real-time visualization. The auto filter is now also available on the Move and the Note devices.
Now we're talking.
All right.
If there's something I do, I do an absolute ton of, it's auto filter. I use that so much. I use it on stuff that's already been filtered twice.
Yeah.
Right. Stick another one on it.
It's one of those plugins that is so simple and yet so effective, and you can use it in pretty much everything, right?
I like the stereo movement that you can introduce as well if you just put a slight variance in it and increase the phase, and it just sort of filters it in stereo from left to right. It's that's another favorite of mine.
It's cool. It's definitely a good thing to do in that regard, because like I mean, filter plugins are they're everywhere, right? And you can get third-party plugins for filters, which does bring you back to that notion of, well, why bother with just the auto filter from Ableton? But the fact, as J-Bell will say, as J-Bell says, it is the she, which I'm thinking is short for something very different, which I don't have to say because we'll get demonetized. Not that we're monetized anyway. But the
double demonetized.
We'll have to pay YouTube. But yeah, like it's a fantastic plugin. Then again, when third-party plugins have come in with all their kind of extra stuff, we've done a lot of kind of filters and distortion filters coming through recently. You wonder, okay, this almost feels a little bit, lackluster, but with the new update coming through, it does feel like there's a little bit more to play with here, which is definitely a good thing for a plugin which is so readily used.
Yeah. And apparently it has an LFO on it, so I don't have to do that myself anymore, which probably translates to my CPU is going to come down a tiny bit. Slightly less count of LFOs all over the place. LFOs controlling LFOs.
Yeah, LFOs controlling LFOs controlling LFOs. That's the way forward. This is the way. And it does make sense. Like, if we have been talking more recently about CPU usage and the drain that extensive amount of plugins have on a computer, having all that with such functionality within the box with zero latency, definitely going to be a good thing in that regard.
Yeah And I don't let things like CPU hold me back anyway. I mean, all you need is enough of a track, enough of the bones of it, that you can get all this stuff and just burn it in and flatten it and start again with like really low CPU and start wanging loads of effects on that.
Exactly.
I'm really into processing recently.
I mean, it makes total sense in that regard. One final thing on the filter before we move to the next, just because this is funny. J-Bell, My Plugin Baby, the song by Muse. Nobody knows that song is actually about auto filter from Ableton, which I can kind of believe, and I can kind of get on board with that. But yes, new expressive chords, a new MPE enabled Max for Live devices for Live 12 intro, which is nice. Max for Live devices in intro, which is pretty cool. Standard and Suite enables users to explore rich chord progressions with intuitive one key or pad inputs. This helps in crafting harmonies beyond traditional scales with expressive MIDI and MPE control. Do you use much MPE?
None.
You don't use anything. Is that because your devices don't have it, or?
I've tried various products, all from one company, so I'm not going to name them, but rhymes with Poli. And I just don't like it. I like the fact you can control those elements of the sounds. I don't like the feel of it and the response. I've tried tweaking sensitivity like crazy, to just make it respond in the way that I want to, but I just find things a bit sluggish and a bit unnatural. And I don't know, I would rather play it with one set of controls and then overdub additional controls afterwards, play with it once it's recorded, than actually use MPE. It could be that some of the ring-based systems where you're waving your hands in the air and so on might work better, but I don't know, they still feel very gimmicky to me and not particularly natural.
I hear you.
I am trying to push myself towards, learn to play the instrument better, rather than edit so much and all the rest of it. And this feels like going against that to a certain degree, because it doesn't feel like actually playing the instrument or a classical keyboard sort of approach. That being said, I like the look of the jouet. I think it's called, which is like a thing on a slidey sort of, rocks. It swivels, it slides. I kind of like that. Yeah, maybe I need to get one.
Yeah,
but now I've not found one that I've gelled with, to be honest, and that's just me.
No, I hear that. I hear what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from. I wonder if that is in a certain fashion, because MP is relatively new and relatively a new concept. Whether you have to still pay premium to get it, right? Like Rolly, Polly, Rolly, okay, I ruined it. But Rolly, for example, they are. They look fantastic, right? And they are really innovative and they're really dynamic. There's a reason at the same time.
Really like that design,
yeah. There's also a reason why their products are a bit lower end on the scale, a bit more budget friendly. I mean, they're still expensive.
Seaboard Rise is, a professional bit of kit and priced accordingly. They do have some cheap entry level stuff, but even that's not as cheap as you might expect. And you check it out. It is. I wouldn't call them budget.
Okay, it's relative budget, because like if you look at the Osmos E, for example,
for MPE,
that's like that's the Osmos E, for example, the Expressive E, Osmos Expressive E is top dollar, and that looks really fun. So if it makes sense, if it's a new technology that you have to pay that amount, and anything budget would have something to that degree, but might not work as clinically and might not work as expressively, so to speak. Maybe that's just maybe. I'm just a dude on a podcast. I don't really know anything, but you never know.
But I think if you're going to do something, tactile, how tactile it is and how it actually feels to use, I think is everything, really. If you're talking about trying to get multiple expressions from how you interface with whatever it is, But yeah, I think maybe I just need to try them all.
Well, give it a try.
Try them all. But as Mike
shoot,
said in the chat, he's actually he's speaking to a point that was another bit of a turn off for me, and that was the type of sounds that you get MP control on, being very sort of digital, bright things off the shelf that I don't know, that don't really, they're just not like synthesis styles that produce sounds that I really like.
Look at that.
Whereas obviously if it's part of your DAW and you can map it, I mean, it's probably a pain to do, but you can control anything with it, then you can probably make use of the MPE in more interesting ways than just having a really swishy sound that's been designed for MPE. So it's got things that you can change, but isn't necessarily a sound that you perhaps like or fits in your style. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause I thought they were all of a particular style, all sounding quite digital, very bright, very like, what the hell would I do with that sound, to be honest?
I get that.
Whereas if it is just about the control and the instrument, well, you may not be just controlling the instrument. You might just be using, you know, the traditional MIDI to control the instrument and the expression to control the effects rack you're running it through or something like that, you know. So, you know, that in my mind is a very different kettle of fish and actually probably good fun and a lot of use. And I might start shopping for an MPE controller, to be fair.
I totally hear where you're coming from. For context, for those of you listening or watching on Spotify or Apple Music, Mike Smith, the comment that we're talking about is from Mike Smith. It says Expressive Chords is a MIDI device that allows you to put chords on a single note controller so you can mash fancy chord progressions without being a jazzy, which I believe is what he was talking about here. But yeah, I mean, that is, sorry, Eonlake, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about that. I mean, presumably you're able to change the chords because, you know, if you've got like a seventh chord programmed and you're just playing a seventh, C seventh one, it just sounds horrible. You need to be able to change what the chord is as you do it. And I'm sure it will be allowing that level of control so that you're not just playing the same chord on lots of different positions.
That makes sense. I got that wrong though. I got that completely wrong. Mike was talking about you can use MPE controller with Ableton's expression control device to control anything with 3 stars.
So it requires mapping, I imagine. Though, I mean, it would be hell, I think, even to have anything work out of the box as just default. But you know, I like the idea of using them. Using MPE with sounds is kind of good if you want that amount of movement with a sound, but I also like the idea of being able to use it on the sound or the effects or the volume. I don't know what else can you do in a DAW, panning. You know, I like the fact that it's utterly flexible.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Okay, well, in that name, let's keep on moving on for now, and I'll do these two together because they're kind of under the same kind of ideas. Developments in the world of Raw and Meld. So you've got the Raw enhancements. The saturation modulation tool in Live 12 introduces delay routing mode. Sorry, I was going to say routing mode there. A dispersion type filter and an external audio and MIDI sidechain, which allows users to control pitch feedback in note mode. And then with Meld is a new chord oscillator, which enables users to play complex chords from a single MIDI note using 4 sawtooth waves. And then more about LFOs. The Scrambler LFO effect has been added for additional modulation because we didn't think there was enough modulation in there already.
Well, it's good to have options, isn't it? Everything. I mean, I'm a bit of a purist on that. Maybe it's the Eurorack well, but everything should be able to modulate everything.
And I get that, and I think it feels like it's kind of going that way, especially with the matrices that are coming out within, for example, Drift. For example, it does feel like anything can be modulated to anything, and that's kind of what you're going for, right?
It really starts to close down arguments for, you know, having hardware, you know, or at least the functionality based arguments for having hardware. You know, I've said this before. I mean, and it's even more true now than the last time I said it, that you used to maybe go to Eurorack or other systems because there are types of synthesis or processing or effects and so on that you just couldn't get elsewhere. And definitely granular stuff was a lot more available there than anywhere else. But you know, one by one they fall, and all of this stuff is coming into the door now, which is bad news for your CPU. But I mean, you know, great news for you know, being able to completely recall a set with a hell of a lot going on and not have to worry about patching and stuff. I don't know. It does take a little bit of the fun out of it, and those weren't the only reasons to have hardware, but that functionality thing, the gap is really being closed. There's a lot of really funky stuff coming into the door now.
Yeah. It's ever more enticing to remain in the box in that regard, with the high quality audio synthesis that you can do. And if you're a budding kind of new age producer that's just getting into it, having the ability to pay, say, €500 and just buy everything you could ever possibly need without having to invest in gear, looks pretty enticing in that regard.
Yeah, and it's saying that, you know, a computer or laptop is your best tool, really, that and a door for all round what it gives you. Definitely.
Which is going to bring it, which again kind of teases this notion of what we're talking about in round robin. So we'll leave that there for now. Just again, so coming again from our resident Ableton sponsor, Mike, he's used the Plates chord engine in VCVE rack to generate, to create generative chords, and then mash that through Supermassive, which is the ultimate ambient pad, which, according to Eonlake, who is both here and in the chat, said there's already been a video on it. Haven't seen it. Mike, do you want to put the video here? Because I'd love to watch.
I'm sure Mike's been posting videos of doing things like that because you can get Platts and some of the other popular engines, a lot of the Instruo stuff, awesome Scottish Eurorack manufacturer. Most of their modules are in VCV as well, so you can use those to generate sound, and then you know it's already in Ableton. You can get the old favorite Supermassive on it, like Mike says, and it's kind of like the best of both worlds without having to pull out a patch cord, which is it's very convenient. And I've done that with VCV and Softtube modular as well, just to get some different sounds both into live and also use some favorite models like clouds as an effect send in live as well, because you can just wang them on a return and start sending anything you want into it and getting all sorts of crazy stuff back. So yeah,
which makes sense.
Best of both worlds. Great fun.
Yeah, great fun. Completely and utterly, and it's similar to the Ned Rush live streams and the videos that I watch. Do you watch Ned Rush at all?
I think so. Yeah,
he's he very charismatic and very interesting. He's got a deep knowledge of Ableton and how it works. And I'm always intrigued. And it's Ned Rush and Mike, when Mike's building his ebook for the lazy composer,
lazy producer.
That's the one. Yeah. I'm fascinated, and I'm waiting for it. I've been waiting for it for a long time. And because there's a part of me that wants that notion of sitting with my mouse and my keyboard and just kind of pointing and clicking and moving stuff around, which is completely the opposite to the rig over there, which is all hardware based and all kind of away from the screen as much as possible. I can't help but feel it's going to drive me mental, but I kind of want to understand Ableton to a deeper degree. I feel it's the way to go for that. So I have to see. Finally, from the in terms of Ableton itself, in terms of the sound production, there's also updates to scale awareness and tuning. One of the massive updates in 12 was their use of resonators and spectral resonators, where they created harmony from a single note. Apparently, this has been made more consistent. So musically, if you are generating sounds and harmonies through plugins as opposed to just playing chords, for example. Apparently, this will now create more consistency and more delicacy through your compositions, which can never be a bad thing.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I can get on board with that. I can get on board. Really, really quick. This is one thing that really turns me in a good way, mainly because they've updated the search organizations and the UI enhancements, which, having dabbled with 12 intro, I come back to 11. I'm always like, where's that sample that I was looking for? And
Yeah,
kick, and I need this and that. So they have now quick tags panel for assigning and editing tags directly in the browser, a simplified filter view with better discoverability, the ability to view multiple columns of metadata at once, sounds very technical, and customizable icons and labels for user folders in the sidebar. That's good, because that's a workflow thing. That's a place of, I'm in the flow state, I want this, I want it now, give it to me, Ableton, please, kindly, thank you.
Yeah, and they're right to prioritize it, because you do not want to break away from anything that's going well, to be trawling through sounds and so on. If you want killer vibe as quickly as possible, that's the way to do it, as we all know. So yeah, I mean, it's good that they're putting effort into that. And I think having multiple columns that you can filter on, it sounds complicated, but I think it probably is a bit of common sense when you're looking for something, and you will find things a lot quicker. And that's what we're after.
Yeah, and I agree. And again, just to kind of come off, because yes, Survey Channel, this is some real shop talk. You're completely right.
Yeah.
It's well worth it. Like, we're taking advantage here. Two Ableton users at the helm this day. But Mike hits the nail on the head. Not many people would say, I'd really like a bit more metadata when producing music, but I am totally in favor of more metadata. If I could create,
I don't have to put it all in.
Right. Well, yeah, if it's made for me, like
using metadata is very helpful.
Yeah. Well, for me, it comes to that last like 5% of the production, when I'm putting in the effects, and I'm putting in the rises, and I'm putting in the crashes and stuff like that. And it's not stuff that I particularly enjoy. It's stuff that I'm learning to love and learning to enjoy, but it's not the thing that I enjoy most about the production. So I kind of want to get it done, and I procrastinate on it, and I'm done. And if there was some kind of a way, which there's some sort of Neuralink to Ableton itself, where I say, right, I need a sine wave riser lasting for 16 bars, and I need it to open the filter at this rate, and boom, and it gave me that, I'd be happy. I'd be a happy monkey. So the fact that they're increasing this kind of brings me a bit more joy. And I've stopped talking just as Eonlake decides to have a cough and mute his microphone, which is totally fair. If for anyone listening, Eonlake is currently having a coughing fit, and we'll wait for that.
I think for that one, I might be, happy to draw a little bit of automation in or something. But yeah, I get where you're coming from.
I just want it perfect, and I don't want to have to do any work on it. That's where I'm coming from.
Well, I've got an 8-bar one. Do you not want to stretch it? No, I'm your 16-bar one.
That's it.
Don't bother me with all this mismatching returns.
No, when you stretch an 8-bar riser into a 16-bar riser, you get more grittiness, and I want the smoothness, perhaps. I mean, maybe I'm being picky.
Yeah, but maybe you're going to run it through distortion anyway. Maybe I am.
So I have to see. So yeah, if you're interested, head along. You can go have a look at Live 12. Mike will continue to tell you more and more about why Ableton 12 is amazing. As an Ableton user, I would agree with that. There obviously no DAW is better than another. It's whatever works for you. But this seems like a pretty decent upgrade, and a further enveloping of Ableton's, should we say, place within the main players of the DAW. So they've done a lot of work here. And it seems to be that they're going for usability. They're going for ease of use, and using Ableton to vesselize, or as a vessel to create your musical workflow, as opposed to something that you have to learn in and out, all seem fairly easy and simple in that regard.
Yeah, and to be fair, ease of use is something that they've capitalized on, being quite good at in the past.
Mm-hmm. Completely. They try to keep it as simple as possible, and they try to keep it as easy as possible. Things like automation, for example, and dragging things through and not having separate boxes. I'm thinking about in comparison to FL Studios, they do it quite nicely in that regard. So, yeah, grab yourself a copy of Ableton and have a look. I think it'd be definitely worth your time.
Yeah, I've been putting off 12 for a while, but just more reasons now for me to actually try it. There's better CV integration for Eurorack stuff, I think, at base level 12 anyway. And this is just more benefit, really. So I'll probably be doing it sooner rather than later, at least on my laptop.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. And it does feel like we're kind of like sponsoring this show by Ableton, which as I said at the beginning of this show, we are not. Our sponsor for this show is Mike Smith. First and foremost, we don't have sponsors. We don't do ads. We're not there yet. This show is brought to us by our patrons. A lot of you who are in the chat this week. Mike is one of our patrons, as is Survey Channel. So it's lovely to have you here. And you are the guys that keep our lights on. You have helped us pay for the streaming platform, for example, StreamYard, which is it's an annual subscription. You allow us to keep the record label going with Bandcamp Pro. And all our plugins that are not free and the things that we pay for to get here on the show and our demos and our interviews, that's all down to you. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. You are the guys that kind of keep us going each week. And literally, as is the case in this week, wrote the show for us. So thank you. If you are watching this show, listening to this show, and you like what we do and you want to help support us, aside from sharing and liking and being a part of the chat, you can head across to patreon.com /Audionautic, and you can make a pledge. Pledges start at as little as $2 a month, which I don't know. I'm not sure that is seen in many places these days with the rate of inflation, etc. But for as little as $2, straight away into our Patreon group, which is an inner circle within our Discord community, where we have a hangout once a month, which is our next one is on the 23rd of March. And we get together once a month on a Sunday and just sit, have a chat, have a cup of tea or a beer or whatever, depends on the time of the day. Just kind of check in with each other and have this shop talk, but kind of everlasting. And we kind of have to stop ourselves at some point and say, hey, enough. It's we got our our kids are starving, Any note on that, Eonlake?
No, as I say, it can often be like issue based, where somebody has a problem that we're trying to find alternatives for, or recommending hardware, software approaches, all sorts of things that people have got questions about, including us, of course. And it's an opportunity to talk to each other. Sometimes that can be difficult because of time zone differences. Sometimes it's patrons that can't necessarily make it onto the show, which is another benefit, of course, to come on halfway through so that we can actually include you in the show and talk. So it's good for catching up, it's good for solving problems, it's good for being able to talk about stuff that other people would probably start throwing things at you for. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I'm just gonna make a little note of the timestamp here before I continue. If you aren't a part of our Patreon community, that is obviously absolutely fine. The fact that you guys listen to the podcast and are part of the Discord and part of the chat on a weekly basis, that is lovely. I would love to see some of you people get involved in our Discord challenge, which this month is a remix challenge for Lingering Light, which is the lead single in Sunwarper's latest EP, Through the Quiet Dark, which we released a couple of weeks ago on digital, and still a few on cassette. If you wanted to head over to our Bandcamp and you're into physical, if you're into physical merchandise, head across and you can get a lovely cassette that Lars over at Error Prone Records and Sunwarper worked on extensively. But the lead single from that, we got the stems from that, we whacked it into the Discord, and people are downloading those stems. And the idea is that we're going to flip those into a remix, which we will have on the first Wednesday of April, which I don't have my calendar up today, but I will get you that date in a second. But grab those stems and have a little gander. 2nd of April.
And it's not just Patreon only, obviously. That's open to everyone, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is open to anyone. If you want to join, the Discord link is in the description, and it's open to everyone. We are doing a giveaway this month in the name of healthy and friendly competition. $10 Toman gift card for the one deemed the quote unquote the winner in that regard. So we're trialing that, giving something a little incentive for people to get involved. One day we might be Skio and we might be able to give away speakers and monitors and headphones and money, but you never know. We're starting with a $10 Toman gift card. I think it's pretty decent.
Yeah, we don't want to introduce ugliness to these competitions too quickly either, do we?
No.
Like, it's fun and friendly.
Exactly. It's fun. It's friendly. It's not meant to be taken too seriously. You don't have to have necessarily finished your track. It is about just having a springboard. We often talk about having beat block, or we often talk about having writer's block. And this we have found to be a fun communal way of kind of overcoming that by having something that is somewhat outside of your control, where you're given a set of sounds or sonics or whatever. And then boom, that can kind of get the creative juices flowing. So if that seems like your vibe, head down to our Discord. Yeah. I did have one more thing for the community corner before we get to the round robin. Just a notice to our patrons. I'm halfway through building this quarter's sample pack. So have a look at your inboxes in the next couple of days. Got some lovely sound from some explorations in around the place called Karlstein, which is like a massive castle in South Czech Republic. Went for a bit of a hike, got some lovely nature sounds. Sunwarper got some lovely drum sounds from his recording studio over in LA. So we're in the process of building that. That should be across to you next week.
Mm-hmm.
Which, it'll be fun. So yeah. That's the end of Community Corner. For now, we'll finish the show. It's 47 minutes, so we'll finish the show with our round robin this week. Do you want to introduce this, Eonlake, or shall I?
Well, you're so much better at it than I am.
Oh, don't be like that.
Steve's leaving us here in the background there.
Steve was not a fan. If anyone caught that, Steve has just opened the door and he's out for the round robin. He's obviously not interested in the community discussion.
He doesn't care who introduces it. He's not into it at all.
Exactly. Our round robin is our community discussion section of the show. And this can come to us from the community, from the Discord. It can be a question that is posed to us or that we pose. It could be concerning something existential, like writer's block or beat block or anything like that. It could be about production. It could be kind of tips and tricks, etc., or how we do things. This week, however, they've got something halfway between. And the idea is that I want to kind of bring it to the table and kind of see where everyone's at. And I implore you and encourage you, whether you are watching live here on YouTube or whether you're watching back on Spotify or in fact on YouTube, to put something in the comments, because this is truly the community part of the world, or part of the show, I should say, is probably a better description. This is where the idea of together we grow, which is kind of the unofficial motto of Audionautic, comes into play. The idea is that we all have these similar ideas and we all have these similar constraints sometimes, but it's learning from our different people about how we can overcome that. This week, I've written, and I can't quite remember why I wrote it this way, but I did, and we're just going to run with it because we're live. Where is the line between "come see my laptop play live" and being an octopus on stage? This is oh, goodbye, Mike. I've just seen in the chat he's gone, so that's good. It's nice to see you, Mike. This comes from the fact that Eonlake at the beginning of April, over the Easter break or spring break, has got a gig in London, don't you, sir?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Some sort of live event of music.
What's going down? Where is it, and what's going on?
It's going to be in Islington, just around the corner from Tufnell Park. Saturday night, I think it's the 28th, is it? That's the Saturday night. And I'll be going on third, so second to last.
Almost headlining.
Almost, yes.
Eonlake, almost headlining. I'm going to put it on a t-shirt.
Exactly, yes. So it's time to dig into the live sets and start thinking about how things need to be different this time and all of that business. And you being the massive cynic that you are, to word it that way, have pitched this question. So I don't know. Do you want to express any thoughts about what the answer to that is, or do you want me to dive in there?
I will. I would like to hear where you're going with this, and I'd like to hear where you're kind of at, and I'd like to talk more. I want to just kind of answer some questions from the chat. So smiling errors basically boils it down quite nicely: pressing play versus playing live, and then Tufnell Park. What day?
It's in my socials, but yes, it's the Saturday. I think it's the 28th of April.
Yeah, I mean that is 26th of April. Hang on, that's what I've got on my calendar here. 28th, 26th, 27th, 28th of April is a Monday. So we're talking what? We must be talking 25th here.
Yes.
Yeah, must be talking 25th in Tufnell Park. I am when you can. Oh, obviously follow Eonlake on his socials, but when you can, Eonlake.
I will be posting about it many times. Yes.
Put it in the Discord. Put it in the Discord. Yeah. So that's where this kind of comes from. So, and I mean, I'm coming from a selfish point also. I've got a gig coming up in a couple of weeks, not quite as extensive as yours. I think my set is a bit quieter and a bit shorter. But I wanted to kind of see where you were at with it, because we were talking about this at the end of the last show, and I kind of want to bring it to the forefront.
Yeah. So this sort of thing, it's quite easy to have an opinion on, isn't it? And the whole, I mean, it's a very cynical way to put it, but then it's in reaction to a number of DJs I think that's where the term came from, was whether there's not really a lot of DJing going on, just a lot of jumping up and down and arm waving. And I think really it's a line that you draw for yourself. But I think also it depends really on your interpretation. So I see a lot of people wanting to avoid laptops for this reason. And doorless seems to be one way of getting around this. But I can take the information from my music and I can program it into something else. I could use a Digitact or some other device. A lot of my kit's got sequences in it, but it's still the same thing, right? To my mind, if you're running a sequencer, it's a sequencer, whether it's in a laptop or whether it's in a bit of hardware. What's the bloody difference, really? Unless you're actually going to play every part. And at the same time, I'm a solo musician who's produces somewhat maximalist music that I could never play all of myself. So I think there's also a question that you need to bear in mind about how much that the audience cares about what you're doing. I mean, they probably don't want to see you just standing there doing nothing. But at the same time, New Order used to make a big deal. They used to just go off and leave songs running. I'm not sure why they did that, but I always found it quite amusing that, at the end of their set, they'd just walk off and leave the song going. I mean, there's some amount of like playing live instruments on their stuff. So yeah, I don't have a road crew either. So I've got a lot of gear around me here and things that I can play. I've got my drum kit and bass guitar and everything that I do play my music, but I'm not going to drag them to a venue and sit at the back playing drums necessarily either. So you have to look at what it is you want the actual performance to be like, what your criteria are for that, what your criteria is for enjoying yourself and having something to do, but also having a little bit of risk maybe, but not pushing it so far that you could completely mess things up. Or maybe you do want to go that far. And what's going to transfer well for the audience. And to be honest with you, my opinion on all of those things is a little bit in flux. But I think it's important that the set can't go ahead properly without you being there doing stuff. You know what I mean? It's like you can't press play and the whole set happen. And to be honest, you know, where I use bits of stems and MIDI information in my stuff, my sets are such a mess. I mean, my original Ableton live sets are such a mess that I am cutting certain parts out of certain stems because they don't fit when you're trying to run a couple of songs together and there's a gap in between them and stuff, and you're looping a certain part and creating a transition between two songs. There are some things that don't work that I have to mute out, and there are other things that, you know, that I'm fading in and out and stuff. There's sort of maintenance being done. But what I want to do is cut down on that and do more processing and playing of lead parts and stuff like that. But again, you know, I also think there's an argument for, you know, there's one guy on stage playing a keyboard. How exciting is that? You know, ideally, I think what I would do is, you know, take a bit of a leaf out of Bonobo's book where, you know, you're playing bass on one, you know, you're playing a bit of keys on another, you're doing something else on another. And there's, you know, and there's a bunch of people playing other parts as well, but I'm kind of limited in what I can do. So, you know, I tend to carve bits out of each song for me to play and things for me to do. But then a lot of it, you know, some of it is sequenced. I drop a load of parts out because I don't want the live version to sound like the recorded version too much.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my one thing that I have at the top of my list all the time is it is about the music for me. You know, I'm not interested in fighting this question on stage in front of a bunch of people and misrepresenting my art or my music or what I really care about. You know, that has to be in place first, and everything else is a secondary consideration. That's not to say that they're not important, but you know, if I'm standing there juggling 5 balls and the set goes to pieces and it's crap, not enjoyable, you know, you don't accomplish anything. So you know, obviously there's no easy answer to it, and I think like most things in life, there's a balance there to be found, and that's a balance that moves around depending on what you want to do. But yes, I am going to do a certain amount of filter sweeping on stage because at some point you've got to. You know, I'd quite like to have the chaos pad and mangle some transitions a little bit, and I just like doodling with you know, little bits of sound when you've got just an ambient piece in between songs or something. There's a lot of things I like doing that I might do on stage, partly to keep me interested, and also deciding on lengths of songs as well. I've got them chopped up in such a way that I can, you know, shorten them if I need to, if I feel like it. You know, I'm progressing things on from sections and moving things that are happening within them. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit of it's a bit of a discipline as much as writing the music, really reinterpreting it live and so on. So I'm still quite early on in that.
Oh yes, fair.
different ways of doing things. I'm definitely not going to do it the same way as last time,
Mhm.
and I doubt that the next time will be the same as this. You know, it's definitely it's an evolution.
Completely. I think it is. I think it's another form, both in parallel and in sequence with your producer's journey in that regard. Learning how to kind of cultivate a sense of a live understanding of the word that you've gone. And yeah, as Survey said, it's a discipline. And you have to, as Coraline says, not misrepresent the music in that regard. You have to remain true. I think I take a little bit more of a liberal approach than that, but I think yes, you have to remain true to a certain degree to the music that you created yourself, and the idea that that is something that you're trying to emulate, not just because it's your artwork and what it's doing, but also people are coming to see the work that you do because, to a certain degree at least, they enjoy the work that you do. And you know, Slash from Guns N' Roses played the solo from Sweet Child of Mine the same way every single time because that's what people are paying to see. They want that euphoric moment of that awesome solo. And in the same regard, you know, there is a certain amount of staying true to the original source material that you kind of have to go through. The lines for Coraline, it's making clear where the lines are, and I think that is something that you have to do for yourself. You know, it's up to you where those lines are in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, I've always actually got the Orbital T-shirt on tonight, but I've always quite liked the way that they, through reasons of logistics and so on, have to revoice certain parts. So, you know, they've been playing songs for years that essentially sound roughly the same. You know, they vary in length depending on what's going on that night, but they're often like changing the synths that play certain parts and so on and chopping things around, you know, where the parts that actually make up the song are the same, but they're kind of revoiced onto different equipment frequently. I kind of like the idea of that live. I record all things that I do live, and I'd like them to sound different. And I'm happy to change sounds for ones that are kind of similar but a little bit different, or to even put new parts in it if it occurs to me to do that, or if there's a tune in my head, I would do that too. You know, replace certain melodies, but I don't know. It's really, I think, for you to decide where you want to walk that line, really. And at the end of the day, you know, how much do you want to see one person playing? I'm not Rick Wakeman, you know. I'm not even a brilliant drummer, to be fair, which is my main instrument. I could certainly play a set, you know, no problem. But you know, for me, I'd like to think the music is bigger than just me, and so therefore, you know, I have to find my place within it.
I get that, and I think that's a very interesting point, and I think it stems and kind of speaks to what Survey Channel is saying. I know for me that there is an element to of being a performer in the physical sense. Some people just don't have it. Me being one, too self-conscious, so I need to rely on other ways to create. And I think that's a really interesting point because I think what we often forget, or we often don't. At least in me, I don't say we, I mean me. I think one of the things I've noticed more recently when I'm going to see live bands, whatever genre, is that there's a difference between those shows where you come on and play your tracks and then leave, and those where you come on and interact. And, you know, you might have a break in between songs. You might, you know, speak down the microphone and interact with the people. Hosier is a fantastic example of this, where he'll come on and he'll play a load of songs, sure, but he'll interact with the crowd and he'll have a good time and he'll, you know, be breaking that fourth wall, so to speak. And I do think that that is a really necessary component, especially in this modern era of performing. I think there is something to be said for the wow factor and the benefit factor of an artist interacting with their audience on a more personal basis, as opposed to just coming in, playing the set and leaving again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you need to have some personality, I guess, for that.
I mean, in theory you do, or just have or just talk. I mean, there is I suppose there is an understanding that your fans, so to speak, or the people who come to see you, are interested in you as a human being, even if you don't perceive that in your own existence. But you know, in the same, if you think about your idols and you think about your people who you grew up with, your influences when you grew up, yes, all right, they might be a decent musician, a great guitarist, a great drummer, a keyboardist, or whatever. But there's a certain, I don't know about you, but there's a certain amount of it where you are buying into the personality, buying into their life story, buying into their ideas, right? Or am I just completely projecting it?
No, I think that's true. When it's somebody that you are really fond of, I don't know. I don't want to know too much about people's personal life, but I'm very interested in how they think about music and how they approach it, and their philosophy and so on. Always, yeah, I am. I don't always assume other people are like me, but I think that is something that transfers to other people, that you do sometimes want to know a little bit more about the background when it's somebody that you're really into.
Yeah, and I think that has to come through. I think particularly in electronic music, where it could and is so easy just to press play and be done with it. I think they're almost, because of that stereotype that has been unfortunately created through DJing and stuff like that and backing tracks. I think we're in the space and time where we do have to kind of demonstrate that extra reason for people to come and buy a ticket, as opposed to anything else, And
I want to interact with my music as well. I mean, actually, the concept of just pressing play and it happening scares the hell out of me. What are you going to do for like 40 minutes or something while it's playing? I need to be given something to do. I need to be given quite a few things to do. Otherwise, it just absolutely terrifies me. The concept of doing nothing or just, pretending to do stuff for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't really see how that's going to be fun. If you enjoy making music, I want the live thing to be, a little bit like making music, at least, that's what I do. That's the whole kind of idea.
Completely. And I agree with you, I think, on that one. I think, again, that is, we have to thank DJs for that. I think that's why beat matching becomes so prevalent in DJing, because you can't just go from A to B and just kind of switch. You've got to be doing something for the 5 minutes that track is making, right? So you kind of lay up the other one, and then that snowballs into mashups and stuff like that, and that's kind of translated into the fun that can be had with having, say, for example, Ableton Live Push and a mono synth, for example. And I say that purely because that's what I'm working on at the moment. There's that notion of you've got all your clips, you got everything, you got kind of a semi structure, and then you've just got you've got a nice kind of lead sound on your synth, and you just kind of go for it. That there's a notion of having to do something and being in the moment, which is the essence of live performance in that regard.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't just take a song that I've already done and just sort of dump it in a set and press play. It won't work because, often I've been using, equipment in here that wasn't recorded. It was just playing live in the mix. So I have to start putting, VSTs in there and sending the MIDI to them instead, and coming up with a sound that works in a similar way to the one it's replacing. And then I have to think about the bits that I'm doing and drop those out and all sorts of bits like that. So, the live set's different to the songs themselves. They're supposed to be some sort of continuity to it as well. And it's not just, just dump an audio file in there and just hit play on that one.
Yeah.
Again, that terrifies me. The idea of just not having anything to do and not having your brain occupied.
I agree. And not having your brain occupied, just standing there for 40 minutes. And also, people are paying good money, I think. I think they deserve to see a show, and they deserve to be entertained, Are you not entertained? And I think that is fair. And I think there is credence for the non-performer, right? Like, I suppose what springs to mind is like potentially John Hopkins or someone from the non-musical community like Bo Burnham, for example, where not performing is their performance, right? And I do get that, but I just, that is ironic in that sense. And I do think that there's a certain beauty in digging deep and stepping out of your comfort zone and interacting with a person that you've never met before, or a group of people that you've never met before. It's an experience which is very beneficial to the human psyche, which you then take into your music, back into your studio, back into your hermetized state, and you can kind of go from there.
Yeah. You're actually making me think a little bit differently about it now as well. Interacting with people, you say. I mean, I like the idea of breaking a setup into songs and having some of those songs. I mean, I've done some down tempo pieces that I could quite easily play on my own. And I could do, been thinking I could do an ambient introduction, and build up to like the first song and, give the set more shape and so on. I don't think I'm really at a place where people want to stand around and listen to that yet. It needs a slightly stronger following. But I know what I would like to do with that, with the ability to do things like that. And I'd like to break the set in the middle and just play something, and and maybe not have all the stuff, all the sequencing happening on a laptop. I don't know. It's just very difficult because there's so much you can do on a laptop with when you're carrying all your gear to a gig yourself. There's no smaller mixer in the world, definitely. And the fact that it's also a pedal board with a ton of effects, more than you could ever carry, and stuff as well. It's just really useful to have a laptop around for those things. I mean, I've always had a MIDI controller that can send, various tracks into various effects and so on. Till the laptop sets on fire, Jay Bell says, yeah. I always have a backup as well. And the worst case backup is I will have a recording of a previously performed set that I can play if I absolutely have to. But that would require complete equipment failure, because I'm not a professional touring artist with a dual rig like everybody has. So that if that fails, system B takes over. I'm just not there, I have backups and so on, but if it goes really wrong, there's a limit to what I can do.
I get that.
But again, that sort of planning is stuff that goes into it as well, disaster planning and so on.
I mean, disaster planning is good, and I think disaster planning is necessary. Hey, Thomas, nice to see you in the chat. He's here, better late than never. But I mean, it's okay. That's fine. It's just lovely to see you. So welcome. We're chatting about the balance between live performance. Come see my laptop live versus having so much on stage that it becomes a convoluted mess essentially. So that's where we're at.
Playing everything, yeah. I mean, how are you walking that line with your upcoming performance?
It's a good question. I think I'm trying. First and foremost, I don't have a backup, so I've just got whatever it will be, and if it fails, it fails, and that's okay. It'll be what it will be. But I'm also coming from a space of semi-improvisation. So I've got the track I'm performing is an extended version of Planes, right, which is on Intervoidal 2 from last year, and that song is 7 minutes and a bit, right, ish, right?
Yeah.
I got a 20-minute set, so I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna press start on the timer, and I'm just gonna go for 20 minutes, and I'm just gonna kind of see what happens.
That's brave. Brave stuff. I like your style.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go, and if it's and I've done everything. So I've been rehearsing, I've been practicing, and it can be anything from 3.5 minutes to, I think the longest one I've done is about 38 minutes. But that was late, and I'd had a bit by that point. So like that was just over the top, But I just I'm coming from a space of in this particular one, I'm not going to have an opportunity to kind of interact with the crowd and do anything like that. And that's fine. I'm not kind of working for that yet. But as Thomas says, yeah, I'm not kind of overthinking it. If it fails, it fails. And that will be what it will be. That will be what the universe is given to me at that point. And there's enough in there for people to know that it's Planes. For the 2 people that have listened to Planes, it will be enough for those 2 people to know that it is Planes.
Be recognizable.
It'll be recognizable, yeah. But also it's also an evolution by that point, because I believe that what I've got ready to go is better than what Planes is when I produced it. The Planes that you see is released was a live version, in the sense that I just kind of sequenced it, recorded it, and the video that you see on my YouTube channel is what is on Spotify and what on Bandcamp, and that's purely because of time. That's purely because of deadlines. I was running out of time. I didn't have time to remix it or anything like that. So, But now, a year down the line, I've got all these loops, and I've got all this, and I've got a fantastic preset on the monologue, and because it can be, in theory, infinitely looped. I'm just going to go for it and just see what happens and kind of keep it interesting. I've got a bit of noise. I've got a noise channel where I just kind of bring the noise up and bring the noise down. I've got risers. I've got down filters. I'll be all right. We'll see. And I'm trying to not overthink it, because I know that if it was a space where I had like an hour set, I would start overthinking it. But I'm trying to instead of, I suppose, focusing on what could go wrong, I'm focusing on the fact that I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm going to be in a nice suit because it's a corporate event, and I don't get to wear a suit. I'll have a nice kind of like beer that I might not have, and I get to kind of fuck around in Ableton for 20 minutes. And if people hate it, and if people don't like it, then obviously they've not seen the new update from 12.2 and they don't know what they're talking about. That's my thinking. That's my thinking. So yeah, that's where I'm at. But that's why I suppose I kind of come back to the performance aspect of it, and kind of giving the audience something in the moment, as opposed to playing a track.
When it is a challenge with electronic music, there's not always a lot of motion involved in making the music, for real when you recorded it,
Yeah. So I have to see. We aren't getting on for an hour and 20. I know that you've got to get back to work, sadly. So let's kind of get to the closing points. Do you have anything else to say on this notion for now?
No, I just think, like I said, it's a balancing act with a number of different considerations, and it's about, what's more important to you, and about what you want to get out of it, and what you want your audience to get out of it, and what you feel is right and appropriate, and given whatever, physical, logistical limitations you might have. But for me, there has to be some sort of interaction with the music. There has to be a certain amount of making of music happening. Otherwise, I'm not really going to enjoy it, because what I want to do is play live,
Yeah, completely.
I mean, maybe not everyone does. Maybe they just want to be adored, but that's not really me. That's not what I'm about.
No, we can't all be Steve. So I get that. Can't all be Steve. I get that. All right. On that note, while we're doing the round robin, I've just noticed that Coraline has pledged $5 on our Patreon. So I just want to say, if you're still here, Coraline, thank you ever so much for that. That's beautiful. Thank you. Really appreciate your support, and yes, welcome to the Patreon lot. I'll add you to the Discord after the show. Yeah. Yeah, there's a love heart. Wonderful. Thank you ever so much. So yeah,
join us sometime soon.
Yeah, Starstream 23rd of March. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And I will keep reminding people as they come through. Yeah, just to kind of sum up everything. Something that Still Ed says: live performance is the act of being present in the moment, and that's it.
Yes, and that's what I want out of it too, and everyone else, hopefully. Definitely, at least me. Hopefully, everyone else too.
Exactly. And that's that symbiotic relationship, right? Like the more you're in the present moment and the more you're breathing, the more that energy is then put out to the audience, who then become present and then become in the moment, and they stop checking their phones, they stop sipping on their beers, and they're just watching and just taking it in, which then you get fed to yourself, and that reinforces it, and then it becomes a cycle, right? Before I get too hippy dippy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Completely.
Absolutely, back and forth.
Completely. Thank you very much, Survey Channel. Great show. Thank you ever so much. It's lovely to see. Yes, and definitely see you on the Discord. We shall come to the end of the show for now, and we'll get that going. Eonlake, very quickly and very summarizingly, what are you up to this week?
I'm going to be doing a little bit of preparation on the live set. Hopefully, a bit of rehearsal. Really, I'd like to think it's ready to go soon, but I might be hurriedly finishing off a track that I want to include so that I can start reworking it for live.
I do.
And also having a little bit of fun on this little fella, seeing how good it is at doing ambient stuff this week.
That's cool. That's a great shout. That's awesome. That sounds like I need to get myself myself a move. That'd be lovely.
And how about you?
What am I doing? Getting ready for my live set, my gig as well. I've also got a drama production in the theater. That's going to be interesting. So again, live engineering, live vocal mics and all that stuff. So yeah, juggling the production world and the real world, it might seem, in that sense. Ooh, we'll see. I have to also catch up with Survey Channel. He sent me a few messages a couple of days ago. And I, first beginning of the week, you know me, getting ready for 8010. I have to come back to it. Survey Channel, I'll hit you up in the next couple of days. I do owe you a catch up. It'll be nice to see where you're at. So yeah. On that note, thank you ever so much for people who have been here. You could be anywhere in the internet right about now, and you've chosen to be here. So thank you ever so much. And those listening back as well, we've taken an hour and 22 minutes of your time by the time that we get to the end of the show. And yeah, thank you ever so much for your support and for your listenership. If there's anything that you want from us, please hit us up in the Discord. Let us know how you feel and become part of our community. Yeah. We'll go with that. Eonlake, is there any final words you want to say before I close the credits?
No, we'll include some links in the chat for gig information. I've sent that to you in the private.
Definitely. Oh, is that what that is? Is that what that is? All right, I'm going to put this now before we go very quickly. Maybe 1 hour and 23 minutes, but this is worth it because this is Eonlake's live show. So anyone wanting to come and see Eonlake live over the Easter break, can I put that in there? There we go. Check it. There is the link. Grab a ticket. It's going to be fun. I'm going to try and get over, hop across the channel. We'll see where that goes. I'm going to play the outro video. Thank you ever so much once again. We will be back next week. Keep an eye on our Discord. We are still in wibbly wobbly time until the end of March. So yeah, it will be at some point 7/8 UTC. You've got to have a message, but we will see you next week. Once again, thank you ever so much. Have a great week. Ciao for now.